the eliminating models of God. You learn Sanskrit, go back to your scripture, go back to your Vedas and realize that God is one. Division in Islam is prohibited. We understand the concept of God in Hinduism. Quran is the most positive book. Every day, more than 3,000 fetuses are being aborted in India after they identified that they're females. According to the statistics of 1996, US Department of Justice, 2,713 women are being raped every day. Every 32 seconds, one woman is being raped. I've been raped in US until the time I'm here. Islam has the solutions to the problems of the West. We don't have records that 9/11 was done by Muslims. It is just a hypothesis. Muslims are being targeted. They're called as terrorists. Directly and indirectly, they're the politicians. For the vote bank, for the power, for the money. The thousands of innocent people that have been killed in Afghanistan goes to Iraq. More people are being robbed, more people are being raped. The main purpose is what? Oil. It's an open secret. They have Buddhist terrorists, they have Hindu terrorists, they have Sikh terrorists, they have Jewish terrorists, we have Christian terrorists. Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. May peace be on all of you. Welcome to today's program. I, Dr. Muhammad Naik, am your host for today. We begin today's program with the Qiraat by Qari Rehan Ghalib.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا صدق الله العظيم.
The translation of the verse from the glorious Quran. Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 32. If anyone kills a human being, unless it be for murder or for spreading corruption in the land, it would be as if he has killed the whole of mankind. And if anyone saved any human being, it would be as if he has saved the whole of mankind. We thank the many Muslim and non-Muslim senior police officers, advocates, and intellectuals who have urged Dr. Zakir Naik to speak on this topic of terrorism and Muslims in a sensible manner. We also thank Justice Hosbet Suresh to have consented to be our chief guest today. Our chief guest, Justice Hosbet Suresh, is a former judge of the Bombay High Court who retired in 1991. A prominent human rights activist, he personifies the right blend of simplicity and righteousness. He regularly writes articles in the law journals as well as leading magazines and newspapers of India. His recent book, Fundamental Rights as Human Rights, is remarkable. He has spoken at many international forums. He is well known for his report on the riots in Mumbai in 1992-93, entitled The People's Verdict. As member of the Citizens Tribunal on the Gujarat carnage against Muslims, his report, Crime Against Humanity, released in November 2002 in Ahmedabad, is notable and very widely acclaimed. His reports on excesses against Dalits in Mumbai, students in Kerala, Christians in Gujarat, and others, too, are quite notable. An apt chief guest to address our audience today. Brothers and sisters, let's welcome Justice Hosbet Suresh.
Friends, I think I should begin with Lord Denning, a great judge from England, because he's no more. I'll just say what he said once. Judges do not speak as actors do to please. Judges do not speak as advocates do to persuade. Judges do not speak as historians do to relate the past. Judges speak to give judgments. I'm a retired judge, not a tired judge. I give no judgments, but I think I speak. And I believe in speaking. I speak against violation of human rights. I speak against wherever there is injustice, wherever there is violence. I speak against that. And I always expect the judges to come out and speak. If judges cannot speak against violation of human rights, injustice, who else can speak? It is the experience all over the world that every violence by the terrorists has only resulted in more violence by the state. It's a sort of vicious circle, and it can never bring about any lasting solution. In 1984, we had certain bomb blasts in Delhi and around Delhi. The Khalistanis, it was the Khalistanis movement. Khalistani movement was very, very active at that time. The Khalistanis were terrorists at that time. So what we did, how to control the terrorists? We brought Tada law. Tada, the most draconian law. Tada has been misused, as you all know. And what all things happened under Tada law? Large number of innocent people were arrested, tortured, kept inside. I remember Justice Ajit Singh Bains, a retired judge of the Punjab High Court, elderly man. And what he did in a public meeting, he was talking of the oppression that was going on in Punjab, elsewhere. And he said in a public meeting, someday we will be free from this. Now, the Tada law had the provision for disruptive activities. Nobody could have said anything about disruption of this country. Nobody could have spoken about cessation of any part of the country. Nobody could have said Kashmir should get independence or some other part should be free. Nobody could have spoken about it. And if you say anything of the kind, that would be an offense. So when Justice Ajit Singh Bains only said, one day we will be free from this, what he meant was free from oppression, free from injustice. What happened to him? He was arrested, handcuffed, a judge of the High Court handcuffed, paraded in the street and taken before the High Court. The High Court judges could not give bail. That was the law. Went to Supreme Court could not give bail. So he had to remain inside for nearly more than a year. What happened at the end of it? There was no case. This is the kind of thing, that was the law. Under Tada law, over 75,000 persons were arrested. They were all kept inside. No bail was given to them. And under the Tada law, the police could extract confessions, torture, variety of ways of torture, violence in torture, all sorts of things, and then extract confessions. And ultimately, what happened at the end of, when the Tada came to an end, sometime in 1995, you'll find, at the end of it, large number of houses, people suffered, all sorts of injustice. But at the end of it, 72,000 and odd persons were just released. No trial, no case, nothing of the kind. But they suffered injustice for months together, years together inside the jail. And again, what is the conviction rate? Again, one conviction under Tada law was only 1.8%. So yet the Tada law had its effect. It made the police autocrats. The police could do whatever they liked, and none could do anything. The politicians could use Tata law for whatever they wanted, and they could arrest and keep any person behind a bar, and nothing could have been done. So in 1995, the law lapsed because there was widespread protest against this law. We all protested. Tada is a draconian law, and we don't want that kind of law. And it has not brought any terrorism down if you think of terrorism as such. So it came to an end from 1995. Then, of course, came 9/11, 2001. And what we did immediately, nothing happened in India. Whatever happened, happened in New York, World Trade Center. Yet Bush had announced, and immediately he said there will be war against terrorists. And Bush had again said, those who are not with us are against us. And we wanted to show, oh, we are with America. We are with Bush. So what we did, we brought POTA. Again, what happened in POTA is a versatile law and hold all law. You can arrest anyone under POTA. Again, the same thing happened, what happened under Tada law. And large number of people suffered. And they were arrested, terrorists or no terrorists, nobody knows what it was. This is a kind of law. Law was brought only to terrorize the people. See, this is relevant because today people do talk of POTA. They want a law like POTA after what happened on 7/11 in the trains in Bombay, or what happened in Malagaon 2 days ago. They say without law, harsh law, we cannot control terrorism. And I can tell you, harsh law had never been able to control terrorism anywhere in this country or anywhere in the world.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
Assalamu alaikum. This is your brother Majid Mahmood, and you're watching me on Peace TV.
Peace TV English, the solution for humanity.
Salah is the mother of all worships. Salah is your appointment with Allah. Salah is the safe haven of the believer. Salah is your gateway to happiness. Salah is the wish of the deceased. So join me for Salah Revisited and discover what you've been missing out on.
Understand the remarkable guidelines that help in making our Salah rewarding and acceptable in Salah Revisited. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Marriage or divorce?
What's Islamic ruling?
Nikah.
Solution or problem? Heaven or hell?
There is a misconception.
You choose. Beauty, wealth, family status, virtue. Decide what you want. Decide your choice. Be sad or be happy. It's your choice. Join Dr. Zakir Naik in Better Half or Bitter Half every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
Again, when Pota was there, as I tell you, Pota was being debated in the parliament. And what happened was, when the ordinance was being debated, there was an attack in parliament on 13th of December 2001. Thereafter, when the Pota was passed, in Calcutta, there was US Information Center was bombed. There came Akshardham Temple, sometime in 24th September 2002. Then came Raghunath Mandir, 24th November 2002. Then we had in Ghatkopar, Mumbai, Mulund, on 2nd of December. And then, of course, Gate of India, Zawari Bazaar, 25th of August 2003. So, in spite of the law, whatever bomb blasts were continuing. And Pota had no effect on whatsoever. In the year 2002, according to a statement made by the Attorney General of India at that time, 4,038 terrorist-related violent incidents took place in Jammu and Kashmir, in spite of the army and other security personnel and the law. The number of terrorists killed on the spot in the year 2002 was 1,707, of which 508 were said to be foreigners. In Kashmir, the total number of people killed during the last about 17 years amounts to about 80,000. Thousands have simply disappeared. And this has happened in Punjab. Punjab also, when Khalistan movement was there, large number of people were disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. Till the other day, some years ago, they found the dead bodies, the skeletons on the side of the river Bias. I remember I'd gone there to conduct an inquiry. And what I noticed there was, I went around, talked to people, I went around, went to some houses. And in most of the houses, the elderly couple were there and the younger children were there. The in-between generation was not there. Nobody knows what happened to them. They were taken to the police station in the midnight, and next day they would not come back. And after 8 days or 10 days, they would be found dead somewhere here or there. This is a kind of law. So, question is, violence is a continuous thing, killing and counter-killing. In Kashmir, in Manipur, I went to Manipur, again the same thing. In Chhattisgarh, in Telangana, in many places, killing has been routine. The other day, the Prime Minister suggested we should have counter-terrorist wardens. What does it mean, counter-terrorist wardens? Who should be counter-terrorist wardens? You and I? We take the role of counter-terrorist wardens. I don't know. The Prime Minister suggested that. What happened in Kashmir? We made an experiment some years ago. We had arrested a large number of Kashmiris. They were all rotting in the jail. They were confined to the jail. And what we did was, our government said, brainwash them. Told them, you go back. And go back and tell the people they should not fight like this. They should be afraid. They should change their attitude towards India. Do that. But they said, if we go, we will be attacked. So the government, what the government did, we'll give them guns. So the people who went back were given guns. And I remember during one of those elections, our People's PUDR, the Democratic Rights Organization, brought a report. And there was voting at that time which said gunpoint, voting with gunpoint. There was an army gunpoint from the militants. There was a gunpoint from the security force. There was a gunpoint from the military, from the other railway, other security officials. And there was a gunpoint at least by these people. Would that solve a problem? Violence against violence. Again, what we did in Chhattisgarh the other day. Chhattisgarh, there are Maoists are there, Naxalites are there. How to eliminate them? So we have started a brigade of tribals. Over 5,000 tribals were asked to join. And then they called it Salwa Jurum. And with the result, what happened was, all the tribals were killed, but the Naxalites are still there. This is the kind of thing that we are thinking. So, what I'm trying to say is, not a single terrorist in this country has been tried or convicted. Nothing is of the kind. What we have done is only killing. In Bombay, for example, bomb blast took place in 93. Conviction, of course, still we don't know. Conviction, the real culprit, where are the real culprits, one doesn't know. Of course, people who have been rotting in jail for 13 years and so on. Tomorrow is supposed to be the D-Day, the Judgment Day. I don't know whether the judgment will come or not. This is the kind of thing. And again, you'll find in Akshardham, there was an attack. Again, who are the culprits? They were shot dead. In a parliament attack, who are the culprits? We don't know. We shot them dead. This is the kind of thing that we are doing. So we have only violence as in answer to violence. That is all this kind of thing. Even after 9/11, what did Bush do? He declared a war. War against whom? War against terrorists. War against Osama bin Laden. What did he do? He bombarded Afghanistan. He killed large number of poor people. No one is sure whether Osama bin Laden was killed or not, but large number of innocent people died. So also in Iraq, they said, okay, Taliban are in Iraq. They also said Iraq has got what you call weapons of mass destruction. No evidence of that. And yet, of course, in fact, the evidence has come, there no Taliban also there in Iraq. And yet, what he did was bombarded, war against Iraq. Large number of innocent people died. The number lost to terrorist atrocities in New York, on the World Trade Center coming down, is less than a tenth of the toll in Iraq, that kind of killing. And it is not a war according to law. It is an unjust war, and not according to the international law. And everyone has a right to protest against that war. If anyone could protest, anyone could condemn that kind of war, be a Hindu, Christian, Muslim, fundamentalist, or otherwise. You have a right to protest. Just because we protest and condemn, we cannot be considered as terrorists. One of the most difficult problems is to define terrorism. See, we talk of terrorists. Where is the definition of terrorism? How do you define terrorism? Tada did not define terrorism. Porta did not define terrorism. Only terrorist acts were defined. And those acts could be even under the Indian Penal Code. They are not different. Murder, killing, dacoity, using guns, all are under the ordinary law. But you can, at the discretion of the police, they can use it as an act of terrorism under Tada law. If it could be broadly agreed that the deliberate killing of innocent civilians, you find this kind of definition in the dictionary, if it could be agreed that the deliberate killing of innocent civilians is a central element in most definitions of terrorism, then in that event, the worst terrorism of the last century should be the USA for bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where suffering of large number of innocent people has never been healed even after 6 decades. Just killed lakhs of people in these two places. So also, the worst violators of the 21st century as it began are the USA and Great Britain. So the USA has a business of encouraging, killing everywhere. It gives them a market. It gives them a market for supply of arms. So also luxury Toba believe in killing. It gives them a market. So while both seek to wield power, one of course with the superior power of USA, and the other of course trying to build up his own other category of power. So it has become the global war. In this way, as against terrorism becomes a permanent feature of these persons. In other words, the permanent feature of American policy is a global war. It will never come to an end. As long as the fear of terrorism is there, they're happy. As a result of this, what is happening in the rest of the world is that freedom and liberty gets curtailed. We are now gradually sliding into what is called a security society.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
It is the most comprehensive book that explains how we live our life according to Islam. A collection of authentic prophetic statements and actions. Let us study the book Riyadh al-Salihin, Gardens of the Righteous.
I pray for our world. I pray for every child.
Gear up to comprehend several reliable ahadith to effectively understand the vision of Islam on various aspects of life. in Riyadus Salihin, Gardens of the Righteous. Tonight at 11 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12:30 p.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
Tawheed is Noah's Ark. Whoever embarks will be delivered, and whoever refuses will be among the losers. Tawheed is the key of paradise and the only way to salvation. To attain eternal bliss, to attain never-ending life, get in on the ark, hold on tight, and never let go.
Watch as Sheikh Salim Al-Amri explains the basics of Islamic belief and worship in Back to Basics tomorrow at 10 p.m. and repeat telecast at 10 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Peace TV English, the solution for humanity.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
Today, as you must have seen as we walked in, what happened to all of us? Everyone had to have a checkup. Because security, internal security. So we are going into a security society. Security is more important, not liberty. Your security. And then you must have read in the paper what is called Advanced Passenger Information System. You get into a plane in London, within 15 minutes, your full history is sent to Bombay or whichever the destination. When you land there, the police are there. Police know your full history. You've gone to Dubai half a dozen times. Okay, that is enough. They could do anything they like. For example, what happened in Amsterdam, as you all know, they saw some people behaving in the plane, people behaving in a very suspicious way. Their appearance, their dress, their speaking language, looking like Arabs, looking at watch frequently, bearded Muslims, and burqa-clad women. Okay, all these are suspicious character, this kind of thing. So security becomes more important. And this is a kind of policing that goes on. And as a result of that, we have all sorts of things that go on in this country, everywhere, because under security society, the police can do anything they like. Other day you must have read that Antap Hill, somebody was found in a building which was supposed to have been neglected. Nobody was there. What happened was, the police suddenly found he was a Pakistani, they said. One doesn't know. They went and shot him, killed him. Nobody, no proof, nothing of the kind. So because in the name of security, the society accepted. Society did not protest. Who was killed? Nobody knows. So the police again believe in this guy because that helps them. They don't have to prove a case. They can detain anyone, keep him inside the police station, days together, without a charge, without anything, in the name of investigation. In fact, the other day, I went to the Minority Commission. What happened was, people are just being rounded up and taken to the police station. What is the law? If you are taken to the police station, if you are a witness, of course, your statement has to be recorded, and then you have to go home. If you are not a witness, you are a suspect, then your name should be there somewhere. Your name should be in the FIR, or they should have advanced information. But they just can't take you to the police station and say, you are a suspect, you don't know anything about me, but you are a suspect. You keep me, you torture me inside. You keep me for days together. No station diary entry, no report. And one fine day, you handcuff that man with another unknown person who is supposed to come from Pakistan. And they say, you are connected with this two together. This is the kind of system. So in the name of security today, police can do whatever they like. Anyone can be killed in an encounter, deaths, and no investigation. In the name of security, every movement of yours can be tracked. Your bank accounts, for example, your transactions, all come under the check. In the name of security, see, the other day the rule has come. In Bombay city, you can't sell or buy property. You can't rent out your house. You want to rent out, you have to go and inform the police officer. So the police have to be informed. So liberty is becoming a casualty. You are literally going to be enslaved. Soon if this kind is encouraged, ultimately, you slowly, your rights are being taken away. Your liberty is being taken away. You are enslaved. This is the kind of thing. And I tell you, this is not something new. When Tara was introduced, also it was introduced for the sake of security. Even the Supreme Court, though it is a draconian law, unjust law, after Maneka Gandhi's case, nobody could have upheld that kind of law. Yet the Supreme Court upheld that law. Again, in the name of internal security. In the name of security, that's the main consideration. They upheld quota law, again in the name of security. They upheld Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which has done havoc in northeastern states, Manipur and so those places. Yet we upheld the law in the name of security. All of principles of the liberal society, justice, social, economic, everything, all those they have forgotten. This is a kind of approach. So therefore it is necessary, we must understand, this violence must come to an end. So what is the solution? Solution is not arms. Solution is not violence. Violence against me from the people or from the state. No. What is required is that why should there be so much violence in the society? Our approach should be why there is this kind of terrorism. What is the reason for that? That is the thing the government must understand. Not arms, not this kind of harsh law. I tell you, there is so much of injustice in the society. Go to any part of India, anywhere. So much of injustice. The rich and the powerful can get away with impunity. Nothing happens to them. America can invade any country, nothing happens to them internationally. Within India, the rich and powerful are not bothered. They don't go in for voting, but they get whatever they want. But the poor, what happens to the poor? The marginalized. Huge projects, for example. We have built huge projects. I got details of statistics if you want, I can give them. What happened to them? Narmada Dam is the simplest example. Came up. What happened to the people who were affected? Large number of tribals, what happened to them? They had lost their land, lost everything, yet nothing happened to them. What should they do? In Bombay, we have 40 lakhs or more people live in slums. What is the government doing? Government is demolishing them. Your right to housing, internationally recognized right to housing, right to shelter, part of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international covenant, civil and political, economic, social, cultural rights. All this is forgotten. Supreme Court has said repeatedly in the past, Article 21, right to life includes everything that goes with human dignity. Your food, your clothing, your shelter, your health, your education. What are we doing today? Everything we are not bothering. The government thinks it is not his business. The government thinks it is not their job. They're slowly abdicating their responsibilities. In a situation like what should the people do? If you are thrown away from your house, you don't get justice in a court of law. What do? In Vidarbha, large number of people committing suicide. Repeated approaches, repeated appeals. Government is indifferent. Government is doing nothing. What should the people do? These are the questions. How do you answer? I remember once Arundhati Roy said, in a situation like this, where people get no justice, nothing happens to them. At that time, what happened to them is they refused to take this into account. I remember I went to Gujarat after the riots. Large number of young children have seen their mothers and sisters being raped and burnt. Nobody guided them. Nobody gave them education. Nobody gave them any psychiatric treatment or anything. The trauma was there. What should they do? Who gave them justice? Could the system give justice or not? I do not justify taking arms, but a government has a responsibility. The government must take it into account, because if you don't care for the victims will try to take care of things by themselves. And that is the point. And so what Arundhati Roy said was, when victims refuse to be victims, they are called terrorists. So you are all victims of the unjust thing that is going on in this country, in this society. Government must take a major role, not by bringing harsh law, not by creating counter-terrorist wardens, not by blaming a particular community or anything, not by doles, but taking care of human rights. Your right to food, your right to shelter, your right to education, right to health, right to a living livelihood. If these things are taken care of, automatically there will be change in the society. I think that is the goal that I want to tell you. Thank you very much for giving me this chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Hosbet Suresh, for your frank judgmental comments on the injustice that we see around us. Exposing reality before our audience is well appreciated by all present here. Once again in earnest, on behalf of the Islamic Research Foundation, I welcome each one of you present here at this interesting and serious talk. It would be followed by an open question and answer session in which you can ask Dr. Zakir Naik any question on the topic. As concerns about the causes and effects of terrorism rise, as distinguishing between war and peace, religion and politics gets difficult, as media reports instill in us a fear psychosis and Islamophobia amongst billions of people worldwide, we all wonder, and so does the world around Muslims, is terrorism a Muslim monopoly? Our speaker for today, Dr. Zakir Naik, is the president of the Islamic Research Foundation, Mumbai, and a medical doctor. An internationally acclaimed orator on Islam and comparative religion, Dr. Zakir Naik has delivered more than 1,000 public talks worldwide in the last 10 years. He appears regularly on many international TV channels in over 150 countries. Brothers and sisters, addressing the notion, is terrorism a Muslim monopoly? All yours, Dr. Zakir Naik.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not.
An evil is approaching. A gap has appeared in the barrier of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, like this. This is part of a hadith that was spoken over 1400 years ago. And if it was near then, imagine how near it is now. My name is Muhammad Tim Humble, and in this series we explore the hadith of Sahih Muslim that speak of the trials and tribulations that are to come in the end of days.
Know and understand the signs of the final day to increase your taqwa and protect your iman in End of Days. Every Friday at 6 p.m. and repeat telecast at 5:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Islam covers all aspects of this life and the hereafter.
We begin with the letter A. A is for what? A is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth.
The do's and don'ts, the freedom to choose, to decide our way of life.
My prayer, my fasting, my zakah, my hajj, my slaughter.
As per our wise creator's will or our uncertain human will.
Everything is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Bilal Ismail.
Purification, a super important matter in our Sharia, as we will learn A to Z of purification.
Appreciate the holistic approach of Islam in dealing with various affairs of life in A to Z series. Every Monday at 8 p.m. and repeat telecast at 8:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. A man, a mission, a world-renowned orator on Islam and comparative religion. He dedicated more than 5 decades of his life for dawah. Ahmad Deedat.
We Muslims believe that Jesus was the Christ. This book is an eternal book of guidance for you and for me, for the whole of mankind. It's a solution to the problems of mankind. The miracle is when you expect a man to be dead and he's alive. That's a miracle.
Man with a Mission, every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 11:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
Terrorism is not the monopoly of any religion. It is not. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah wa ala ali wa sahbihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَاقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. Honorable Justice Hosbir Suresh, my respected elders, and my dear brothers and sisters, I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Almighty God, be on all of you. The topic of this evening's talk is terrorism a Muslim monopoly? First, let us understand what is the meaning of the word terrorism. It is very difficult to define the word terrorism. There are various different definitions, and many of them contradict. The definition is intangible. It keeps on changing depending upon the geographical location and the historical fact. It is very difficult to define terrorism. But according to the Oxford Dictionary, it says that terrorism is a use of violent action to get and fulfill a political aim or to force a government to act. This word terrorism was initially first time coined in 1790s during the French Revolution. And it was in 1790s that the statesman, Edwin Burke, who was a British statesman, he used this word to describe the Jacobin-ruled French regime. And the years 1793 and 1794, it was called the Reign of Terror, the Years of Terror. And Maximilian Robespierre, he was heading this government, and during that time, he has killed thousands of people. He has guillotined thousands of innocent human beings. Historical records tell us that he had arrested more than 500,000 human beings, out of which 40,000 he has executed. More than 200,000 were deported, and more than 200,000 they were starved and tortured to death in the prisons. So this word terrorism initially was coined to describe the people during the French Revolution. Today, we have in the international media, there is a very common statement which is repeatedly bombarded, especially in the Western media. And that statement is, all Muslims are not terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. And this statement was even imported to India, especially after the 11th July, the serial train bomb blasts that took place in Bombay, especially to Bombay. And we find that even in India, especially in Bombay, people kept on repeating the statement that all Muslims are not terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. Let us analyze today what do the historical records tell us, and what does the data on terrorist attack that is available in world history, what do they tell us? When we look at the records, in 19th century, we can hardly find any terrorist attacks have been done by Muslims. Time does not permit me to speak about the details of the attacks taking place in the 19th century. I'll just mention a couple of them. We know that in 1881, Tsar Alexander II of Russia he was assassinated. He was traveling in a bulletproof carriage in St. Petersburg Street. There was a bomb that kills innocent 21 bystanders. He comes out of the bulletproof carriage, another bomb comes, and he's killed. He was not killed by a Muslim, he was killed by Ignis. He was a Pole from Burbusk. He was a non-Muslim, he was an anarchist. We know in 1886, there was a bomb blast that took place in the Haymarket in Chicago during the labor rally. And 12 innocent people were killed. One amongst them was a policeman by the name of Dejan. Later on, 7 policemen were injured and they died in the hospital. The people responsible for this act, they were not Muslims, they were 8 anarchists, all of them non-Muslims. When we analyze the record of the terrorist attacks that have taken place in the 20th century, we know from the historical records that on the 6th of September, 1901, the then president of USA, William McKinley, he was assassinated by an anarchist by the name of Leon. He was shot twice by Leon. He was a non-Muslim. On the 1st of October, 1910, there was a bomb blast that took place in the Los Angeles Times newspaper building, in which 21 innocent people were killed. The people responsible for this bomb blast, they were 2 Christians by the name of James and Joseph. They were union leaders. They were non-Muslims. We know that on the 28th of June, 1914, in Sarajevo, France, the Archduke of Austria, along with his wife, they were assassinated, which precipitated the World War I. The people responsible for this assassination, they were called the Young Bosnia. Most of them, they were Serbs. They were not Muslims. From historical record, we come to know that on the 16th of April, 1925, there was a bomb blast that took place in St. Nedelia Church in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, in which more than 150 innocent people were killed and more than 500 injured. It was the biggest terrorist attack that has taken place on the soil of Bulgaria. It was conducted by the Bulgarian Communist Party. They were not Muslims. We know from historical records that on the 9th of October, 1934, King Alexander I of Yugoslavia, he was assassinated by a gunman by the name of Lada Georgiev. He was a non-Muslim. The first US plane to be hijacked, it was not by a Muslim, it was by a non-Muslim by the name of Ortiz. He hijacked the US airliner to Cuba, and he later on got their asylum. When we go to the records of terrorist attacks done, we come to know that in the year 1968, the ambassador to Guatemala, he was assassinated by a non-Muslim. In 1969, the ambassador to Japan, he was knifed by a Japanese, a non-Muslim. The ambassador to Brazil in 1969, he was kidnapped by a non-Muslim. The famous attack, the Oklahoma bombing, which took place on 19th of April, 1995, where there was a truck loaded with a bomb which rammed into the federal building in Oklahoma, which killed 166 innocent human beings. And hundreds others were injured. Initially, it came in the press, Middle East conspiracy, for days together. Later on, they came to know it were 2 right-wing activists, Christians by the name of Timothy and Terry, who were responsible for the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma. But when this news comes, it comes for a couple of days and then it vanishes. But before, for several days, Middle East conspiracy, Middle East conspiracy. After World War II, from 1941 to 1948, in a span of 8 years, 259 terrorist attacks were conducted by Jewish terrorists. By many organizations, Ignun, Stern Gang, Haganah, and we know of the famous bombing of King David Hotel, which took place on the 22nd of July, 1946. They were conducted by Ignun, under the leadership of Menachem Begin, in which 91 innocent people were killed, out of which 28 were British, 41 were Arabs, 17 Jews, and 5 others. The Ignun group, they dressed up as Arabs to show as though Muslims did the bombing. And the person responsible was Menachem Begin. And it was the biggest terrorist attack against the history of British Mandate, in which 91 people were killed. And at that time, Menachem Begin, he was called as terrorist number 1 by the British government. Later on, after a few years, he becomes the Prime Minister of Israel. And later on, after a few years, he gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. Imagine, a person who has killed hundreds and thousands of innocent human beings becomes the Prime Minister of Israel and later on gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. And most of the groups that were fighting, like Stern Gang, Ignun, Haganah, all of these Jewish groups and the leaders like Yitzhak Rabin, Menachem Begin, Ariel Sharon, later on became prime ministers and high-holding ranks in the state of Israel. And all of them, they were fighting for a Jewish state. If you see the world map, before 1945, Israel did not exist. Israel didn't exist. These Jewish groups, they were called as terrorists by the Britishers. They fought for a Jewish state. Later on, with power, they grabbed the land and they kicked the Palestinians out. And now these same people are calling the same Palestinians who are fighting for a more just cause, for getting the land back. And they are labeled today as terrorists by the Israelis. Imagine, Hitler incinerated 6 million Jews. He kicks the Jewish community out. Why should they come to Palestine? The Palestinians, they welcome the cousins with open hands. If they should take a land, they should go back to Germany. They should go back to Europe. Imagine the Palestinians, they welcome the cousins. Imagine, suppose a visitor comes to your house. Being a stranger, you welcome him in your house. After a few days, he kicks you out of the house. And when you cry at the doorstep, I want my house back, people call you a terrorist. This is exactly what has happened today. The Palestinians, they are called as terrorists. For what? They only want their land back. And so-called people, most of these powerful first world countries, they are agreeing with this unjust cause. We know that in Germany, from historical records, from 1968 to 1992, the Bader-Meinhof gang, they killed several innocent human beings. In Italy, we come to know from records about the Red Brigades, which has killed several innocent human beings. They were also responsible for kidnapping the Prime Minister of Italy, Aldo Moro. And after 55 days, they killed him. Further, when we come, a similar gang, a similar terrorist outfit, we know, was also in Japan. The Japanese Red Army. There was Buddhist cult. Om Shirito, the Buddhist cult. And they tried to kill thousands of people in the Tokyo subway by the nerve gas. But unfortunately, they weren't very successful. They were only able to kill 12 people, but more than 5,700 innocent human beings, they were injured and wounded because of this nerve gas. They were Buddhists. In UK, for about 100 years, the IRA, Irish Republican Army, they are conducting attacks against UK. They are Catholics, but they are never called as Catholic terrorists, they are called as IRA. And we know they have conducted several terrorist attacks. Only in 1972, 3 bomb blasts were done. In the first one, 7 people were killed. In the second one, 11 were killed. And third one, 9 were killed. In 1974, they did 2 bomb blasts. In the Guildford pub, they killed 5 innocent people and injured 44 people. In the Birmingham pub, 21 innocent people were killed by the bomb blast and 182 were injured. Time doesn't permit me to speak about all the activities they did. I'm just mentioning a few, just at random. In 1996, they did a bomb blast in London where 2 people were killed and more than 100 were injured. Further, in 1996, a bomb blast was done in the shopping area of Manchester where 206 people were injured. In 1998, Bambrick's bomb blast, where 500 pounds of bomb was loaded in a car, in which 35 innocent people were injured. In the same year, we know from records about the Omak bomb blast, where a 500-pound of bomb was put in a car and 29 innocent people were killed and 330 were injured. All these records are from non-Muslim sources. They have not been written by Muslims. All from non-Muslim sources, from Amnesty report, from BBC. If you go on the internet, you can cross-check. But many a time when the number is big, there may be a difference. Like today we know how many people killed, 296, one report says 294, one says 293, so I play it safe and say more than 290. The report, if it's a large number, may differ by few here and there. If it's a small number, it's precise. All these by non-Muslim sources. In 2001, the BBC was bombed by IRA. But these people, they are not called as Catholic terrorists. Today, the UK government is more afraid of Muslim terrorists. I don't know from the records of the UK government how many confirmed Muslim terrorists have done bomb blast in UK. Even the London bombing of 7th July, there's no confirmed report. They are suspected to be Muslims. It's not confirmed, in which more than 50 people were killed. One report says 52, one report says 56. Therefore, I said more than 50 people were killed. Even if we agree for sake of argument that they were Muslims who did the 7th July bomb blast in the year 2005, yet they come nowhere close to IRA. IRA puts these bomb blasts to shame. They have killed hundreds and thousands of people. Yet today, the UK government is more afraid. IRA is doing since more than 100 years. But because of the advice of George Bush, Tony Blair is more afraid of the Muslim terrorists rather than the problem which is there for more than 100 years. We know from historical records that in Spain and France, the terrorist organization is ETA. They have conducted 36 attacks. And in Africa, there are so many organizations, the list is exhaustive. But the one which is worth noting, and one of the most notorious, is called as the Lord's Salvation Army. It's a Christian terrorist organization. They train young children to commit terrorist attacks.